Now that will take us to the second reading and adoption of ordinance 2014-1323 by our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As you stated, the item before you is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2014-1323 relating to the requirement for mandatory spaying and neutering of pit bull breeds. As introduced at your last meeting on March 11th, the ordinance provides for 5 exemptions from the mandatory spay and neuter requirement. One of those exemptions relates to currently licensed pit bulls that are registered with the American Kennel Club, United Kennel Club, or another appropriate registry, and in which the owner possesses a dealer's license from the United States Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services. During the public testimony, one of the speakers pointed out that that exemption excludes show dogs who aren't also bred. The license required for breeders by the United States Department of Agriculture relates to breeding activities in which the breeder earns $500 or more per year. And while show dogs are often bred, that's not always the case. A show dog does have to be registered with the AKC, UKC, or other registry and must be intact. So there was this discrepancy. So what is offered to you tonight for consideration is alternative language to address that discrepancy, which would allow owners to have show dogs in the city of Lake Elsinore without the requirement for the mandatory spay or neutering. The revision to the proposed ordinance would be very simple. The one exemption would be stated in the alternative. So dogs that are registered, currently licensed, and registered AKC, UKC, or other registry would be exempt, or if the owner has a breeder's license. Staff has discussed that revision with Animal Friends of the Valley. Animal Friends of the Valley has no objection, staff has no objection, so it's really up to the council. If you elect to go with the alternative language, we need to reintroduce the ordinance tonight and then bring it back for second reading and adoption. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so for clarification, Madam Attorney, by tonight, if the second recommendation of the revision would basically go back to the first.
Yeah, it's considered a substantive change.
Okay.
So we start over with first.
You start over. Okay. All right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
We do, Madam Mayor. We have received 1 email and we have 5 requests to speak on this agenda item. At the pleasure of the council, I'll read the email after the speakers or before, whichever you...
Why don't we read it now and then we can move to our speakers.
The email received today from Richard Cuellar, to whom it may concern, my name is Richard Cuellar. I own 3 pit bulls. I am asking you to please not pass this law against pit bulls because first and foremost, it is unconstitutional to not allow us to freely own any living animal we so choose. As American citizens, we have every right to own this dog. The Constitution guarantees us this right. To say otherwise is unconstitutional. I understand your concern with the pit bull breed due to the recent mauling of children and adults. You feel pit bulls are dangerous, and obviously they can be, but the same exact thing can be said of any dog of any breed since the beginning of history. People have been bitten by dogs of absolutely every single type of breed. So to single out pit bulls only is prejudice against them. If you are going to try to eliminate pit bulls, then you might as well eliminate all breeds. To eliminate all breeds would really be absurd. It's plain inhumane to do this. We pit bull breed owners love our dogs. I know from experience many people would cry and be deeply hurt if you put down their dog because that animal is like a family member. I myself lost a dog too, and I cried and I hurt very deeply because I love that pit bull so very much as I love any member of my family. So please do not pass this law. It's unconstitutional, and passing this law is going to do nothing but cause trouble. There will be many people who feel offended that you, the government, would wait would want their loved ones killed. This in no way, shape, or form is fair to pit bull owners. I myself was bitten by a poodle and am not trying to put the whole poodle breed down. It was an isolated incident, and to wipe out a breed is wrong. Seriously consider the repercussions of many families. Dad will be angered if they were to be forced to put down their dog and have to obey an unconstitutional law. Laws should be made to punish individual deeds, not a whole breed of animal. I know from experience pit bulls are humanly friendly. Many kids are raised around this, my kids are raised around this pit bull, and they are loving and gentle towards my children. Not all pit bulls are bad, so by all means punish the bad ones, not the good ones. All laws are written to punish deeds that are unlawful. There are no laws punishing all of anyone's belongings to any one race of people. That would be very unfair. Likewise, it is very unfair to do that to a pit bull. Not only is it that unfairness of such a law unconstitutional, as the Constitution requires fairness in the making of any law. It is against the Constitution to say we can't own a particular domestic animal. My personal pit bulls are tamed. They are good dogs. They have life and feelings. It is inhumane to disregard them and the owners of pit bulls. Please read this email at the City Council out loud, because what I have to say touches bases with the Constitution of the United States of America. Sincerely, Richard Cuellar. Our first speaker, Colby Carwile, followed by Richard Bengocha.
Good evening. Just wanted to say I used to believe that pit bulls were exactly what the media presented. I used to wonder why anybody would want to own a dog that could attack at a moment's notice with no provocation. I used to believe that there were no pit bulls in the city, and I was glad, because if there were, surely there would be attacks right and left. Then somebody I knew got a pit bull. I saw what a wonderful dog they are. I did all kinds of research, I checked into everything, and now I'm clear my mind. These dogs are canine good citizens certified. They're therapy dogs. We visit people with developmental disabilities. And I just wanted to say, it struck me when we were saying the Pledge of Allegiance. We said justice for all. But yet many of us here have to come and protest an ordinance that isn't justice for all. It's unjust to pick out one breed and make laws against that one breed, just as it would be against a group of people. It's unjust to deem one breed vicious or anything else. They should be characterized and looked at their deeds just as we would want. We wouldn't want to be characterized as a whole. They should be judged individually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, City Councilman, City Attorney, City Manager. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm a little more prepared than I was last time. I hope you all had a little bit of education from last time we spoke. I'm here on behalf of Boys for Vets. I'm a veteran that does service animals for combat wounded veterans, and choice is the bully breed for us. And also, one thing since the last time we did meet, I walked through the shelter here, and I was actually veered away from every pit bull that there was in that shelter. There was empty slots. They told me that those were put down animals that don't want to see them, or they were off-site. On top of that, City Attorney, I hope the education on the USDA license has been a little helpful, because I know there's a couple other stipulations with that license, and it's a very hard license to get. I'd like to let that be known as well. That license only pertains actually, as well, she said, the $500 that's added if you make that much. Also, it is mainly for international sales, or if you do not do sales, face-to-face sales. That is actually still not even passed by the USDA. It's still in, well, the voting process was passed, but it was not signed. So it can't even be actually stipulated. AKC is also fighting that as well. That's for legal breach. For also the county of Riverside, from the last meeting we had with them, they actually stated that applying for the tax exempt for a registered breeder, the only things that would be needed was the licensing, a tax ID for the state, and microchips and licensing through the CWRI for a registered breeder. So I would like to see, that was a good stipulation that was put in process, not a USDA license, which is very difficult to get. And saying that as for us to use our own to breed one animal, that's very harsh. And on top of that, you have to have 4 breedable females on that yard to even get the license. Other than that, you're pretty much waved over. So, but on top of that, I'd like to actually make a stipulation that was brought up last time we were here. That everybody was saying that the fact that all the breeds are being put into genocide because of, being stereotyped. Stereotype is there. Pitbull is actually a slang term for bully breed. Actually, it's true. If you look down and know the history of a pit bull, my animal here I brought in, I know Councilman Hickman, he thought it was a pit bull. It's actually an American bully. And it's, everybody looks at blocky head, big dog. Not the point. It comes down to a stipulation. But I'd like to thank y'all for allowing me to speak, and I hope your choice is very much out there for us. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Josh Liddy, followed by Sarah Cope.
Hi, Josh Liddy, Voice Swalo, my organization. After the last meeting, I briefly spoke with Councilman Tisdale, and he told me that I could hop in his truck and within 5 minutes of entering Lakeland Village, he could take me to a dog fight. That we just have to listen for it. If he's so knowledgeable about illegal activities such as this going on, then why in the world is he doing nothing about it? Dogfighting is a federal crime. During a phone conversation on March 14th with Willa Bagwell of Animal Friends of the Valleys, she outright told me that this law would not be enforced and that the council members already knew that. And she should know, as her department is the department that's set out to enforce it. Does no one see a problem with this? How are you voting on something that you already know you have no intention of enforcing? In regards to what Animal Control Officer Monique Middleton said last meeting, she was speaking to us and said, these are the responsible people, this would not affect them. This is absolutely not true. Every inch that someone takes towards breed-specific legislation and prejudice against a huge group of dogs absolutely affects my dogs. This then, by extension, affects me. My dogs are my family members, so any unjust law meant to imply that my dogs are different or dangerous certainly does affect me and my dogs. It perpetuates stereotypes and scapegoats millions upon millions of dogs for basically society's ills. And then we have Alan Drusies and his porn comparison in regards to identifying dogs. A Victoria Voice study, which was in part done at the very shelter that he works at, showed that 73% of the time animal control officers and shelter workers get it wrong when their guesses regarding breed are compared to actual DNA evidence. Study-wide, this is out of over 900 dogs. Drusi knows both Dr. Voith and Dr. Irizarry. They're the ones that did the study. And this information was just discarded by Riverside County. Dr. Irizarry, a geneticist, was actually present at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting in October to give a public comment opposing their ordinance. He referenced the study, he explained the genome. Alan Drusies was obviously present. They ignored him. Irizarry also referenced the 2010 study done by geneticist Elaine Ostrander, which showed that the morphological appearance of a dog is controlled by 50 genes out of the 20,000 genes that make up a dog's genome. That's actually 1/4 of 1%. And so when you say a dog looks like a pit bull, you're actually saying it has 4 or 5 genes that affect its physical shape, its head, its head shape, its snout, and it has no basis whatsoever on its behavior. Yet this science went ignored. These were peer-reviewed studies. So in closing, I'd just like to say there's nothing comprehensive in Councilman Brian Tisdale's comprehensive plan, and there's nothing specific about breed-specific legislation. Just look at Part D of this ordinance, Section D. What is the process of the appeal hearing? Is a DNA test done? Who then pays for the DNA test? And at what percentage constitutes a pit bull mix? None of this is even remotely spelled out in your ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. My name is Sarah Cope, and I run a nonprofit pit bull rescue, Change of Heart Rescue. I know that you have been given the resources to do your own research about mandatory spay and neuter. I do hope this gives your council a better understanding of why we are truly all here and why most of us are opposing the ordinance. I do believe that it is a pointless law. However, the language that I have heard used about the breed at the last city council meeting is exactly why this type of law affects not only responsible dog owners, it also affects shelter pit bulls waiting to be adopted. Furthermore, I fail to understand why such a regressive approach is being brought to the table at all. Mandatory spay and neuter has been around since the 80s in many different forms, and it has failed over and over again. I do hope that Lake Elsinore chooses not to follow in Riverside County's footsteps, and instead that this city would plant a seed and set an example for other cities to follow, and by implementing compassionate community outreach programs and low-cost programs, because we know that that already works. Thank you for your time.
Our last request to speak is Michelle Chavez.
Hi again. My name is Michelle. I'm with UKC, a couple of the pit bull clubs, and the AKC Amstaff Club. I'm here to ask that you reconsider the MSN against pit bulls. We have seen it before and it doesn't work, and the results are turning in of dogs. I sent emails to the board about show dog exemptions, and I did receive a message this morning on my voicemail saying that we are going to present an or when it comes to part 1 for the exemptions, so I thank you guys for that. While it is still great that the wording has been changed, it still could be better. I had recommended before that that showing, titling, or some kind of certificate for like temperament testing be included in that, because anybody can, well, not anybody, but there are ways of getting UKC or AKC or some other type of registration papers for dogs. So I would just like to maybe introduce that, you know, you show some kind of proof, which Riverside City, Riverside County, I think San Bernardino City, all require that you show. LA too, LA County, unincorporated, and city, been to all those ones too. But they require some kind of show stuff, and it's pretty easy to get from any registry that you can provide proof. I still wish for a total change of the ordinance to not single out pit bulls. I don't really think that it would work, and it's still going to punish some of the good owners. One of the questions that was brought up that I just thought about too was the review board. I was asked to sit on the Riverside County review board, but as of yet, it passed 4 or 5 months ago, I still haven't gotten any requests from Riverside County to do any reviews. So what I'm wondering is, what is the review board going to be? Who's going to sit on that board? And I just think that people are going to fall through the cracks, because even though I haven't been called personally by Riverside for any of these reviews, I have gotten phone calls from people that have said that they've gone down to the shelters to register their pit bulls or their American bullies, and they've been told that they can't without mandatory spay and neuter, but they have show proof. but they don't seem to know, so there's a disconnect. So I just want to make you guys aware that there's a disconnect in the system, that we just want to make sure that no one falls in between the cracks. So, but thank you very much for your time.
Madam Clerk, I'm just clarifying, we don't have any further requests to speak?
We have no further requests to speak on this item.
All right, what is the pleasure of the council? Councilmember McKee.
I think we need to change the reader's exemption in the language recommended by our city attorney. And that we also need to make sure that our protocol is consistent with that of Riverside County, so that if there are in fact readers coming forward, and to date, there aren't any in the entire county, that they have an avenue and it's the same as the city and the county are the same. So I know this means that we'd have to come back for another reading, but I'm prepared to make that motion.
Councilmember Hickman.
You know, I have a pit mix. It just cost me $120 yesterday for that. Okay. When I adopted my dogs, E through E, they were required to be neutered. All of them. They gave you a voucher, and they stayed on you, and they contacted you. And the cost difference when you buy a license, these people are coming up here and protecting these pits. Do they have a license from Lee? I mean, the difference between one that's neutered is like $20, one that's not is well over $100. That's just difference in the cost covers itself. And the other thing that bothers me, and I really thought about this, I think we should just change this to include all breeds instead of just pit bulls. I just think I agree with them, just don't pick one, let's do it all, clean it up, do it right. You know, that's my opinion.
Councilmember Tisdale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I've gotten a lot of emails, I've talked to a lot of people, we've talked to some of the rescues. Obviously, there's a lot more to this than sort of meets the eye. My intent, or my involvement in this was to keep animals out of the shelter, but also not to give someone a free hand to slaughter more animals. So that was my whole intent. I don't mind criticism. So the young man he criticized back there, I'm okay with that because that's part of the job. But I do want to say this. I'm meeting with the other cities in a couple weeks, and we're going to talk about all of this, and we're trying to develop a plan for the whole region to keep the animals out of the shelter and stop the killing of the animals. So what I would like to do is maybe bring this back in the first meeting in May, when I've had a chance to meet with all the cities, and then the cities, hopefully the cities will be able to take something back before their councils and come up with a comprehensive plan where we can, again, our focus is microchipping, low-cost spay neutering, and some other measures, and marketing this, and educating folks so that we can actually, again, reduce the populations in the shelter. Again, I'm not breed specific. I like all breeds. The pit bull isn't a breed that personally bothers me at all. And so, again, it wasn't my intent. But unfortunately, whether you want to admit it or not, and I know a lot of people have great pit bulls. I have friends that have great pit bulls. But when they do damage, and it's always brought to the front. And whether you agree or disagree, one pit bull outweighs one poodle bite. It's just how it is. So we didn't create this thing with the pit bulls. The city of Lake Elsinore is trying to be responsible and make sure that we protect our citizens, but also on my part, I want to stop the slaughter in the shelter. That's my ultimate goal. And again, I'm not going to do anything that's going to increase the slaughter of any animals. So that's where I
stand.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I also heard quite a deal, not only from the last meeting, in person, phone calls, emails. I appreciate all the input. To address the email, we are not discussing euthanization or any law that involves any type of euthanization of animals. I'm not a lawyer or constitutional lawyer. I do not believe this is a constitutional issue. And, you know, we have to recognize, one of the things I had a discussion with some people who were actually against any type of mandatory spaying, but we have a pet overpopulation problem out here. And so something that does need to be done to address that. I also, some of the comments that were made that nearly humanize the pets. You know, sometimes we do that, you know, but we're not talking about a race issue. And so that doesn't fall on, that doesn't affect me. But what does affect me is the idea that if the idea is to improve public safety, if the idea is to go ahead and lower pet overpopulation, if the idea is to go ahead and reduce the cost of our local shelter, that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So why go ahead and target one animal if it's effective in essentially going ahead and addressing the issue altogether? I don't think we're going far enough. And I like the idea of a plan. I like the idea of a plan, but we don't have a plan before us here tonight. And so I would support Councilman Tisdale's comments that I think we need to go ahead and take a bigger look at this, collaborate with our surrounding partners, and bring it back when we have a better, more comprehensive plan to move forward with.
Is that your motion?
That'd be a motion.
Yeah, I'll second that one.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I hear your motion, and I hear your second before we, and I will notate that, but I want to weigh in as well. You know, after the last council meeting, I had some time after and spoke with a few of the opposition folks that were opposing the mandatory spay and neutering, and I tried to just listen and hear, you know, what they had to say. And in addition to the emails and calls that we all received, I actually met with a group, and I appreciate the time and education that I got in that. And I do believe that the goal here for Lake Elsinore is to, in my perspective, raise our adoption rates, get the animals that need to be adopted, and ultimately get away from euthanizing. I don't want to see any pets euthanized. So I understand that there is some concern with breed-specific mandatory spay and neutering. I too would like to see all breeds be mandatory spay and neutering, because our pet population is the key of the heart, and it's not about discriminating this pit bull breed. And so there are a lot of motions, just so you know, on the table right now. We have, well, I have the first one that you were willing to make a motion to recommend. Okay, so, well, I'm reminding my colleagues that there was a proposal for a recommendation to fall in line with Riverside County and what they do. And then I have the motion from Councilmember Hickman for all breeds.
All breeds.
Okay, so I wrote these down, so just make sure we have a lot on the table right now.
I didn't get a second.
Okay, it doesn't have a second.
That's right.
And then I have a first and a second for bringing this back to the first meeting of May. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So it looks as if there's no further discussion with the first and the second, we're going to move it to the first meeting in May and bring this back. I know that, I'm just letting everybody know that that's what we're doing. There seems to be a lot of different directions. No further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
That motion passes 4-1, with each member voting yes, with the exclusion of Councilmember McGee, nay.